Run, river, run.
I know this.
Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to Be My Guest. Today we have from Warwick, Rhode Island, we have Mary O'Sullivan, and she is an executive coach and an author. The Leader You Don't Want to Be. What a fantastic title. We're going to have a good conversation. I know this. I so believe in this. Mary, welcome.
Thank you.
When did you write this book?
Actually, I wrote it during the pandemic. That was my pandemic project.
Oh.
And from start to finish, 8 months, which is record time for a book that's almost 300 pages.
Right. Have you been getting out a lot, giving presentations yet? Or?
I have, mostly virtual. Right now. Mm-hmm.
Wait till you get out in person. That's what I always encourage my clients to do.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to do that, but it's very difficult at this time because usually I get invited to speak someplace, and most of these meetings now are virtual. So
yeah, some of them. A lot of them are coming back right up the street at Tatnut Bookseller, the famous Tatnut. They've been opened up to. They love authors, and they've been coming them in. There's a big room in the back. There are other places, and I say, if by any chance you connect with someone who says, well, not yet, we're not doing it yet for COVID, I tell my authors, they say, no, get your name in now, because you'll be the first, if not one of the first, that they're going to go. And then just keep emailing, keep calling. And it'll happen.
Well, speaking of, I am doing an in-person book signing and book reading at Stillwater Books in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
I know them both.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're terrific. Have you been at the annual Authors Expo?
Yes, I was there this past December. I was an exhibitor there.
That's overwhelming.
Well, this year it was really slow. We were a
it?
little disappointed. Yeah.
But I mean, it's one right after the
Yeah, it's a huge number of booksellers all over the place.
I couldn't possibly meet everybody in one visit.
No, you can't.
There was Don and what was his first name? For Stillwater Press. Don is his wife.
Steve, I think.
Steve, yes. Porter.
Porter,
Steve
that's
Don.
right.
I
Yeah.
got it right. Steve's been on a couple of times on the show.
He's great.
So you have been an executive coach for 30 years. I looked at her and I said, were you 10 when you started? You look awesome.
Thank you.
When you graduated high school, did you know exactly what you wanted to do?
Well, I wanted to be a school teacher when I graduated from high school, so that's what I trained for in college, and I was, in fact, a school teacher for 10 years up in Syracuse, New York.
Yeah.
And actually what happened, and I tell my clients this, is the way I got every single job I've ever had is because I knew somebody. So one of my students' father was an executive at GE in charge of their marketing department, and they needed English teachers to help edit their major proposals, which were thousands and thousands of pages long.
Yeah.
So I did that for a couple of summers, and then about 10 years after I came in for just summer work, I actually got hired by GE.
So you didn't have to go to college, you just went right into something great.
No, I did go to college, but I trained for teaching.
And where did you go? For which?
I went to Long Island University.
Long Island University? I've never heard of that. I didn't even know they had one on Long
They have a
Island.
big campus, and actually there's one in Brooklyn.
My first roommate in college up at Plymouth State, up in New Hampshire, was from Long Island, Huntington, Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
Back then we were talking about colleges, but that's good to know.
I'm familiar with all of Long Island.
Yeah, definitely. Now, so you started in on that. You were at GE for how long?
I was at GE for about 4 years.
Then what happened?
And then, after GE, I got recruited to work at Sanders in Nashua, New Hampshire, which is now BAE North America.
Yeah.
And I spent several years there. And after that, I got recruited to come back to Syracuse to GE, and I worked there as a consultant for a number of years, working on major proposals. And what happened kind of in the 90s, mid-90s, the economy really tanked as far as the defense industry went. So they were not bringing in a lot of outside contractors. So I went into sales. So I was in industrial sales for 5 years. So that's where I can add up my 30 years because I count that industrial sales experience as part of my experience in industry
Yeah.
because I could bring my GE knowledge to the table when I was speaking to these various suppliers that work with GE. So they're happy to have me come in and talk to them about how their material or whatever their service was would support GE and other companies that were in the area at the time, like Chrysler was up there, GM
Right,
used
yeah.
to be up there, they're all gone now.
What's all, along there? Is it still there? The airline. Her father, Grumman.
Grumman was on Long Island. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if they're still there. They might be they might be somebody different now. Yeah. They used
Yeah.
to make the mail trucks.
So you decided to be an executive coach. What spurred you on? You could see all the things they were doing wrong, and you'd like to help them.
Yeah, well, that was part of it. And there were, I got my master's while I was working at Raytheon, which was the last big company that I worked for. And it was so enlightening studying leadership as my major and focusing on in the HR perspective. So I got kind of the inside track on what was going on in HR. So everything kind of crystallized when I saw what was happening with leadership and the HR impact on the company as a whole. So it was very, very enlightening to see all of these various things. So what we did in that master's program, which is what was at Quinnipiac, all of the theories that we studied, regardless of what they were, we all had to apply to our workplace. And that was really the genesis of that book.
Yeah.
Because every paper that I wrote, every assignment that I created, every presentation I did for my master's degree, I was able to roll into the book, and it actually came out in a very preliminary form on Amazon called Confession of a Corporate Refugee.
Confession of a Corporate Refugee?
Yes.
That's exactly what I was years ago.
Yes.
I said, I've had enough.
Yep. Right. So
Yep.
So anyway, how did I get into coaching? Well, first of all, I have to say that my editors told me to take that book down because it wasn't as professional and as polished as the product you see in your hand today. So it was a little rough around the edges because I did it myself. So that book came down, but I had an opportunity to take a voluntary layoff. I was out actually on medical leave. My father had passed away. We had another family member pass away, and it was kind of a stressful time. So I took medical leave, and while I was on medical leave, one of my colleagues said, hey, by the way, they're giving out voluntary layoffs. And I said, well, my work's all been given out to everybody else because I haven't been in the office in several months. So why not? So long story short, I had to pull a few strings and leverage my connections, but I was able to take that layoff, which entitled me to 14 weeks of full severance pay.
Yeah.
And
Such a deal.
Yeah, and then I went right to unemployment, and then I went right to pension and Social Security, so I really landed on my feet.
Did.
But, that's really part of learning to really leverage who you know and make the right friends when you get into industry.
Important. We are talking with Mary O'Sullivan, and she has written the book, The Leader You Don't Want to Be. Transform your leadership style from command and control to transformative visionary. Yes. Mary, how can they get a copy of your book?
So my book right now is on Amazon.com, and also you can get it from my website, which is www.visionaryleaderbook.com. And when you go to that website, you'll get a free download of the workbook or field guide that's the companion book to this book. And if you want to order that book on Amazon, it's $14.99. So I recommend that you go to my website, which is www.visionaryleaderbook.com. Order the book. It will be an Amazon order, but you'll be entitled to download the workbook for free.
How's that? Now, The Leader You Don't Want to Be. Well, she walked in and gave me the book. I hadn't read it yet, but boy, will I be. I thought immediately when I went through a lot of things, but when I was a volunteer, you know how a lot of the hospitals have a patient family advisory council?
Right.
And most of the hospitals, not all, want the volunteers to have either had treatment there at that hospital, whatever, been a patient, or they have a loved one who's a patient, just as long as you've had experience with the hospital. And if we walked in thinking this is going to be to promote it, we're going to help, do nice little things around, get more going. It's a great hospital, but let's give it some extra. We didn't go in, I don't think most of us went in thinking we were going to get PowerPoints and the financial updates of the hospital. That is totally not my interest. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
That's not why I'm here. I was there for the people, person to person. How can we do this and that? All kinds of leaders in this world. I'm definitely not the financial bureaucrat. So it was great for the first year. Pretty good. We went around, which was a good leader. We went around the huge table, each our experience, what we wanted to do and help with the hospital. It's great. And then for about another maybe by the mid of the first year, or the end of the first year, I could see something turning.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly we're getting all these handouts and PowerPoints about things that we'd look at each other like, what are we doing? You've got a whole finance committee in your hospital. You've got all these, what are you coming to us for? We're not bean counters. So anyway, we had one individual who was a volunteer who would not, not share, but realize that he was part of the gang, another bozo on the bus, as the saying goes.
Mm-hmm.
And the leaders of the group, the staff, thought, oh, this is great. We're going to get free help from this guy. He owns his own company. And they made the mistake, of allowing this guy to basically take over the group meetings, which we came to. We drove distances,
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked out of one of the voluntary ones. I said, they called me, and why'd you do that? And I said, well, look, you can't just focus on one person. There's the rest of us sitting here, too. Oh. But that is so important to me. Every person has something, right, Mary?
Right, and that's the whole idea of what is really now trending in leadership is the idea of collaboration. And just listening and asking people for ideas, because, and this is nothing new, I mean, they've been doing this in the manufacturing industry for years, where the guy on the floor knows better what needs to be done than somebody in the C-suite sitting in the corner office. So you have to take the pulse of your employees to see exactly what's going on in your business, what's on the ground floor, because that's going to end up driving where your business goes, because your business is all about people. And if you can't relate to people and understand and listen to people, your leadership is going to fail. And we've seen that over and over and over again.
Yeah, if you can't, I don't know how to explain it. There's another place I know of where the person is, what's the old saying, a big fish in a little pond.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's fine, you're important too. But the leadership qualities, at least in my viewpoint, are get to know the other people that are this, really get to know, look people in the eye. Hi, how are you? It's good to see you.
Yep.
If you look like a little busy mouse, I don't know about you, but that completely turns me off.
Well, this is a really good point you bring up, because that is one of the issues with women, is that they like to focus and work hard and think they're going to get recognized because they're such hard workers.
Yeah.
And that is completely not true. You don't get known for excellence, you get known for getting things done. And so the more that you do, and the more efficient and better that you get at that task, the more stuff like that you're going to get. And in my book, I don't call it stuff. I call it just exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Because they're willing to load all kinds of junk on your plate because you're the one that does it. So this is a big problem with women, is being the busy bee and focusing down on their work instead of looking up and seeing what else is out there and making those connections with other people that can help them. So
who is that? Richard, he's the head guru of Virgin Airways. Richard
Branson.
I think he's fantastic. I love his style. I mean,
Yes.
he even makes his employees, it's fun to go there every day.
Yes, right. And that's the same thing with Gore-Tex, the people that make Gore-Tex, W.H. Gore Company.
Yeah.
they have what's called a lattice organization, and I do write about it in my book, and they kind of elect their bosses. And the theory there is that you can't have a leader without followers. So if no one follows you, you don't have a project. If no one's going to work on your project, then your project doesn't go anyplace. So their CEO is reading an interview with the CEO, and the CEO even said that, I don't even like to call myself the CEO.
Yeah.
You know, it's really kind of a formal title that we need for Wall Street. But they have a complete organization of collaboration and lateral movement. So you might go to another job, it's lateral. And if your followers think that you deserve to get promoted,
Yeah.
you get voted into a higher level of leadership, which is really amazing if you think that that idea has stood with that company since it was founded, I think, in the 60s.
In the 60s.
I believe so, that company came, because fabric is only one of the things that they do.
Do you think some of these, what is it called, cloud, and some of these new organizations, a lot of our millennials are doing it now. They're starting them. They seem to be a little more flexible on things. I like that.
Well, yes and no. There are issues with some of the new concepts of today. So absolutely flexible and remote and hybrid work is a big thing with the younger generation, right?
It would be with me, too.
Well,
I would love
yes,
it.
there
Yeah.
are some drawbacks, and
Yeah.
that's another whole topic. But there's some real drawbacks to not being in the office and not getting your face time, because that can hurt your career.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when an executive
yeah.
gets moved overseas, out of mind, out of sight, you know, promotions come and go, you come back, you don't have a job, and that's happened also. So remote work is great, but you need to have that, you need to find some way of getting in front of the boss.
Yes.
No matter if you're remote or not, you need to get on a plane, get in your car, somehow get in front of people, because there's nothing like face-to-face communication.
Oh, for sure. Years ago, I was in the 80s, I don't know. My father was a sales rep, and had been in radio and all that. He was very much a leader. And he had told me, you're going to have to, they don't do it so much now, but pound the pavement to go find a job. Don't just look in the paper. So I did it. We moved to a big city in Connecticut, down near Greenwich, Norwalk, Stanford. And there was this huge company called Burndy. It was a electrical wire type of computer thing. Anyway. So there I was, just a kid, and I'm walking in, and I went to it was called personnel then. It wasn't human relations, personnel.
Right.
So I went in there, and very nervous, and I sat down. I had the qualifications, and the woman seemed to have a lot of faith in me, because she sent me to two different interviews in the huge company. One was marketing, and one was working for 9 engineers in one room, like one bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to both of them, and I didn't know what was going to happen. But the one I liked said to me, the leader of this big one with the 9 engineers, he says, this place could use a women's touch. And that resonated with me. It wasn't a put down. It was just like, geez, we could use somebody with some enthusiasm or more, not just bring me coffee. I got it. I understood.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a call from her, I think that same day, and she says, Jan, you have a choice. They both want you. I'm like, oh my God. But you know which one I went with. I mean, the hardest job, but I went with that one because he seemed to care.
Absolutely.
He zeroed in on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you always have the feeling you would be a leader, Mary?
Yeah, I was told as a young person that I was, more assertive than the rest of my siblings. I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You do. Did your parents know that too?
And, well, yes, and as a school teacher, you have to jump into that role right away,
Yeah.
because here I was, maybe 23, 24 years old, trying to control a room full of 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
And at 17, boys are big.
Oh.
They're very big and tall.
Oh yeah.
And so I was thinking to myself at one point, how can I chew out a 6-foot-something 17-year-old, and I can't get my 4-year-old to obey me?
How many children did you have?
Just one.
You had one. Yeah. Me too. Boy, girl.
Boy.
Yeah. Same here. Millennial now. He's been
No, I think he's an Xer, actually.
No way. Well, when I was in first grade, and I don't know where she got this, but they'd send home little report cards to my parents, and the teacher, writes comments, and I never forgot it. Mom and Dad told me that she wrote, "Janet is a leader."
Nice.
At 6 years old, I never understood how she. Mom says, "Well, she said you reminded her of when she was a kid," but I said, "Come on, 6 years old, and she was already." Well, I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, some people just have that personality. There's been a number of books written about it. And if you read Lord of the Flies,
Yeah.
you can see how those two groups sort of devolved into this tribal community. However, each one of them had a leader that just evolved out of the group.
Yeah.
And as my husband often says with the military, there are people that are natural leaders.
Yeah.
They just are able to step up and take the reins. What happens sometimes in corporate worlds, you get natural leaders, and then you get somebody over them who is not a natural leader, who just gets put into that slot.
Yep.
And that is a little bit of an off topic here, where you can. When you're talking about moving people into leadership positions, there's a difference between high performers and high potentials. So if you move a high performer into a leadership position, they may not have the potential to, like the natural leadership
Right.
ability.
The good communicative type of thing.
Well, and the relaxation around people,
Right.
the humanity, as you were saying, towards others, the openness, willingness to listen,
Yeah.
willingness to develop you, to support you, all those things are
Yeah.
leadership qualities. However, I think the biggest leadership quality of all is just showing that you're human and treating everybody else like a human. And that's the biggest lesson in all of leadership, is learn how to be human, learn how to be a human being and relate to people. If you think of the presidents that we've had over the last 50 years, the ones that you remember most are the ones that came across as most personable, most willing to communicate,
Empathetic.
whether it was
Yeah.
PR or not,
Yeah.
they came across as really caring about the people. They could reach you directly,
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
hear
that's
you.
that
The
charismatic.
but the healthy charismatic.
Right.
There's the cultist charismatic. And then
Right.
there's the healthy
Well,
guy.
yep, you got that. You
Yeah.
got that. And I've seen it in industry too, where
Yeah.
there's a cult of personality built around one person, and whether that person is good or not doesn't matter, because they're so charismatic. They have that
Sure.
charism,
Yeah.
that it attracts people to them.
And you feel appreciated, noticed, cared about. Like a good leader in a company to me is somebody who, every person has some talent or some interest that you can, when you see them, say, "How is your dog doing? I heard about that." Or, "How are you feeling? You had a rough time at the hospital."
Right.
Anything, just to be able to let them know, "I know you're here,
Right.
and you are important." We're talking with Mary O'Sullivan, and she is an executive coach. She's also an author of this book, The Leader You Don't Want to Be. Mary, again, how can they get a hold of this and have them, if you want to speak somewhere?
So, yes, I'm open for speaking. I do not charge, so I will come and speak at your event for free anytime. Also, sometimes when I speak, they ask me to bring the books along because people want to see the books, they want to buy the books, and I'll be happy to bring books to your event if you'd like. But you can get the book on my website. It's www.visionaryleaderbook.com, and if you get it at the website, you'll be able to download a free copy of the companion field guide or workbook that goes with this book, that I wrote specifically based on this book. So, and a lot of HR people buy the book and they buy the workbook and they use it with their employees. So I've had that discussion with some HR people that they bought the book, they bought the workbook, and they're thrilled to be using it with their employees.
Oh, definitely. I think I said, gosh, I wish I'd had this years ago, but let's put humanity back in HR.
Mhm.
Bingo. That is so important. The
Yeah.
games people play. You know, there's a book out. Mary, I guess, just got it. It's a kind of a small book, and it talks about the different styles of leadership, and like check off what what you think, what you feel. There's an awful lot of them. There's people who are more, I don't know, austere. They keep a distance. And then there's what we were talking about, people who feel comfortable relating with other people. There's so many different styles, though. So many.
Well, again, people get put into these leadership roles, and maybe they're a role that they aspire to. When they get there, they don't know what to do. And this is the problem, because they can't shed the person that they are. They can't become somebody else. So all of a sudden, if you're a great engineer and you're really excellent at it, and they think, wow, I'm going to push you up to the next level, well, all of a sudden, guess what? 90% of your work is not engineering, it's dealing with people. And if you're not a people person, and if you're stuck in the engineering world, you're not going to be able to break out of that and relate to your people and do a good job for the people that are reporting to you.
Mary, is there a great need? I think I see a lot of coaches out here. You're spot on. A lot of people are saying they're a life coach, or they're already something. What is this? I mean, how do you make sure that they know you're different?
Well, that's really a challenge in today's world, because anybody can make themselves a coach and put up a sign and say they're a life coach. When you dig past that, you find out they're a retired nurse or something. They don't have any qualifications. What makes me different is I've been in business for a long time in big companies and in medium-sized companies. I've seen a lot. I'm kind of like Tom Brady on the field. Like, there isn't one play that Brady hasn't seen.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there isn't one incident that's happened that I'm hearing from clients that I haven't seen played out in the workplace. So that's one big advantage I have, is I have that experience. The other thing is, while I was at Raytheon, I took advantage of their programs, and they paid for my master's degree.
That's awesome.
So I got a master's through them in leadership.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that I am a certified credentialed coach.
Yeah.
So I went to school for a year at a university and took half a master's degree. They were all regular master's degree classes, and got a certificate, a graduate certificate in executive and professional coaching. And not everybody has those qualifications. I also worked my way up to senior certified professional for Society of Human Resource Management. So I have an HR certificate at the senior level.
Oh, that's true.
And I've also got the PCC, which is Professional Certified Coach from the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation.
Before we close, it's not long enough. I want you back. This is
Be
we
happy
could
to
go
come
on
back.
for hours. My question is, how do you get the word out about this wonderful thing you do? About your greatness as far as doing leadership tips. How are you getting it out besides just the computer, just online? How do you get it out?
So the book is my calling card. So I do a lot of promotion of the book. I think the best thing for me in promoting who I am and the book is by attending live events. And even though we're having a little difficulty with live events right now, Society of Human Resource Management is having an expo in April, April 24th and 25th
Where's
at
that gonna-
Mohegan Sun.
At Mohegan Sun, is that in Rhode Island?
Connecticut.
It's in Connecticut.
It's in Connecticut.
Okay.
And I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be talking about my book and talking about my work, and I'll have some material for people to take home if they'd like, and they can sign up for a free consultation with me as well.
That is so awesome. She doesn't charge to give her speeches and presentations. Totally agree with that. And free consultation. That's terrific. You can I'd be just sitting down with her for like half an hour. I get where she's coming from. And the leader you don't want to be, she knows what you should want to be, or that you feel the most comfortable with. Need to get to know people, relate to them, not just be like a human doing, be a human
Being.
Exactly. My mother asked me when I was a kid, she says, what do you want to do when you grow up? I was not driven. I just said, I just want to be. What does that say? Well, parents are like, oh my God, she's stuck. I ended up doing tons of things, but if you grow up in a family of salesmen, and there's broadcasting, and mom and dad met at Emerson and all this stuff, you get to realize that they get out there, pound the pavement. My father would travel all over New England, New York, everywhere, and he showed me by his actions. Oh, I see. Get out there.
Right.
And it's a little scary when you're 21 years old, but look what happened to me with that job. This huge company, two huge places, departments wanted me to come in, so I'll always be grateful for that. We got to go. It's been too short. We've been talking with Mary O'Sullivan, and she is an executive coach. She's the author of The Leader You Don't Want to Be, really. I'll try to donate it downstairs at the library here at Upton at the dedicated local authors section after I'm through with it, but that might take a long time. Better to get it from Mary. Thank you, Mary. Can we have you back?
Thank you. I'd love to be back. Absolutely.
I love your calm approach. That always works for me. I love that because I'm just like, and you're like, terrific. She sticks things through. We could do it forever. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We'll see you next
Appreciate it.
time and being my guest.
Thank you.